On April 20th, 1999, on what began as a seemingly normal spring Tuesday, two teenagers forever changed the face of American schools. In the quiet suburb of Littleton, Colorado, Columbine High School was just an average high school. Thousands of students walked the halls, studied, played sports, dreamed of their futures. But on this day, two seniors, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, launched an attack that would leave 13 people dead and shift the national conversation on school violence, bullying, gun laws, and social isolation. But who were they? And what led two 17 and 18-year-old boys to decide not only to murder their classmates, but to end their own lives as well? Eric Harris was born in 1981 into a military family. His father served in the U.S. Air Force, so the family moved frequently. People who knew Eric described him as intelligent, but manipulative. He had a certain charisma that some admired and others feared. In his journals and personal websites, Eric wrote about hatred, revenge, and violence. He shared homemade bomb recipes and ranted about humanity deserving destruction. It was as if he saw himself as the chosen one to cleanse the world. Dylan Klebold, also born in 1981, was quieter, more reserved. Beneath the surface, though, he struggled with depression and deep self-loathing. His personal writings make one thing clear. Dylan didn't want to destroy the world. He wanted to destroy himself. He fantasized about suicide. But somehow, he and Eric synced. Together, they created their own private reality, where they ruled and where revenge became their god. For years, the public believed they were members of the Trenchcoat Mafia, a group of outcast goth students. But that was largely misinformation. While Eric and Dylan did wear long black coats and knew those students, they weren't official members. And contrary to popular belief, they weren't complete loners either. They had friends, they held part-time jobs, they played video games, and some teachers described them as normal. But in 1998, something shifted. They began planning. They called their project NBK, short for Natural Born Killers, a nod to the controversial film. Their plan wasn't just to shoot people. Their goal was mass destruction. They wanted to plant two massive propane bombs in the school cafeteria on a timer. If those bombs had detonated, they could have killed hundreds of students in seconds. And when emergency services arrived, they planned to ambush them with more explosives and gunfire. They obtained their weapons illegally, with the help of an older friend. They built dozens of pipe bombs and armed themselves with a Hi-Point 9mm carbine, a Tech 9 semi-automatic pistol, and 2 shotguns. In total, they had around 90 explosive devices, most of which, fortunately, failed to work. But the sheer scale of it is terrifying. The date: April 20th, 1999. Shortly after 11 a.m., Eric and Dylan had already placed the propane bombs in the cafeteria. They returned to their cars in the parking lot, waiting for the explosion. But when the bombs failed to detonate, due to faulty construction, They decided to begin the shooting anyway. At 11:19 a.m., they opened fire on students outside, near the lawn. Their first victim was 17-year-old Rachel Scott, who was shot and killed instantly. Sitting beside her was Richard Castaldo, who was shot multiple times and left paralyzed from the chest down. Eric and Dylan then moved toward the school's main entrance. They fired through windows and doors, sending students into panic. Moments later, they entered the library. And this is where the massacre reached its peak. In just a few minutes, they murdered 10 students in the library. Some victims were hiding under tables. Some begged for their lives. One of the most well-known victims was Cassie Bernal, who, according to early reports, was shot after saying yes when asked if she believed in God. While the story was later disputed, it still became a powerful symbol in the aftermath. After leaving the library, Eric and Dylan roamed the school for another 30 to 40 minutes. They started fires, attempted to detonate more bombs, but most failed. They didn't kill anyone else. Their spree was chaotic, but they seemed to lose focus. Then, at 12:08 p.m., they returned to the library. They turned their weapons on themselves and ended their lives with single gunshots. The final toll, 13 dead, including 12 students and 1 teacher, Dave Sanders, a heroic coach who saved countless students before being fatally wounded. 24 others were injured, some permanently. But the tragedy didn't end with their deaths. The police response was heavily criticized. It took 47 minutes before officers entered the school. The media spread numerous misconceptions, including the idea that Eric and Dylan were bullied loners, when in reality, they often bullied others. After the attack, FBI profilers examined their journals and home videos, the now infamous basement tapes. These tapes have never been released to the public in full, out of respect for the victims' families. In them, Eric and Dylan speak openly about their plans, their hatred, and their desire to take the world down with them. This wasn't just a school shooting. It was a planned act of domestic terrorism carried out by 2 teenagers. In the wake of Columbine, new laws were passed. School safety protocols were rewritten. But more importantly, national conversations began about bullying, mental health, gun access, and the signs we so often miss before tragedy. Eric and Dylan's names live on, unfortunately not in honor, but in infamy. Even today, some online communities idolize them. But let's be clear, they were not heroes. They were broken, disturbed individuals who projected their inner pain outward with devastating consequences. Columbine High School still stands today. Students still walk those halls, but the wounds remain.